When Agnes first appeared in the Testaments, she looked like the perfect Gilead daughter. Quiet, obedient, controlled, the kind of girl the system creates on purpose. But episode 7 quietly reveals something terrifying for Gilead. Agnes has been rebelling for a very long time. She just learned how to hide it. And by the end of Commitment, the episode isn't really about marriage anymore. It's about identity, about control, and about the moment a girl starts realizing she may not belong inside the world that raised her. Episode 7 of the Testaments begins in a very interesting way because instead of immediately focusing on the marriage matches in Gilead, the story goes back to Daisy's past life in Toronto. That choice matters because the episode is secretly comparing two girls living in completely different worlds while showing they're actually becoming very similar people. Daisy openly rebels, Agnes hides hers, but both are dangerous to Gilead. And the deeper this episode goes, the more obvious it becomes that Agnes may already be emotionally breaking away from the system, even if she doesn't fully realize it yet. The title of the episode is Commitment, but almost every character is struggling with commitment in a different way. Agnes is being pushed toward marriage. Daisy is committing herself to Mayday. Commander Weston wants control disguised as love. And Aunt Lydia is starting to realize that obedience built on fear never truly lasts. What makes this episode so effective is that almost none of its biggest moments are loud. The real danger comes from tiny actions. A glance, a hidden object, a single sentence at dinner. And Agnes commits one small act near the end of the episode that may completely define who she truly is. Because for the first time, the show openly confirms something many viewers have suspected for weeks. Agnes has a rebellious side. But what's fascinating is that this rebellion didn't suddenly appear. It has always been there. The episode finally reveals Agnes's secret collection, a hidden stash of forbidden objects from the old world. Dice, pens, tiny artifacts from before Gilead. At first glance, this scene might seem small, but it's actually one of the most important moments in the episode because these objects represent curiosity, and curiosity is deadly in Gilead. Remember, Gilead survives by controlling memory. The regime doesn't just want obedience. It wants people to forget the world before it existed. That's why Agnes secretly collecting these items matters so much. She isn't just hiding contraband, she's preserving history. Every object in that collection represents a forbidden connection to freedom, individuality, and human identity. Things Gilead wants erased forever. And the way the scene is shot makes it feel almost sacred. Agnes carefully touching those objects feels less like teenage rebellion and more like someone trying to remember a world she barely knew. It's emotional because Agnes herself may not even fully understand why she keeps doing this. But subconsciously, she's resisting. And then the episode adds one final item to the collection, the cigarette stub from Garth. That moment is incredibly revealing because Agnes doesn't just pick it up casually, she puts it in her mouth. That single action says a lot about where her mind is emotionally. On the surface, it could simply be romantic curiosity because the cigarette touched Garth's lips, but symbolically it goes much deeper. Smoking itself is forbidden. The act is dirty, rebellious, improper. So Agnes placing that cigarette in her mouth feels like her testing the boundaries of disobedience itself, almost like she wants to feel what rebellion tastes like. And honestly, this might be the clearest sign yet that Agnes is slowly waking up emotionally. Not politically, not fully intellectually, emotionally. She's beginning to realize that the life chosen for her may not be the life she wants. And that realization becomes even more painful during the marriage match storyline. Because Agnes wanted Garth, not just because she liked him, but because he represented choice. That's the important part many viewers may overlook. Garth wasn't simply a romantic option. He was the one person Agnes actively pursued herself. She asked Aunt Lydia for help. She hoped. She imagined a future. That alone is unusual in Gilead, where women are expected to accept decisions quietly. But episode 7 crushes that possibility almost immediately when Garth is matched with Becca instead. And you can feel Agnes emotionally shutting down after that moment, which leads directly into her interaction with Commander Weston. Now, this scene is brilliant because Agnes technically behaves politely the entire time, but she intentionally says the one thing guaranteed to upset him. She mentions his dead wife, and the reaction on Commander Weston's face tells us everything. The room instantly changes, the warmth disappears, the conversation dies, and Agnes knows exactly what she's doing. That's what makes the scene so powerful. This isn't childish awkwardness. This is controlled sabotage. She doesn't scream. She doesn't refuse him publicly. She simply wounds his ego. And in Gilead, damaging a commander's pride is dangerous, especially a man like Weston. What makes the scene even darker is that Agnes's mother immediately recognizes what happened. She understands her daughter was resisting the match. But instead of protecting Agnes, she almost seems pleased that Weston notices this rebellious streak. Because in her mind, marriage is supposed to fix girls like Agnes. That horrifying line about Weston being eager to discipline her says everything about how women are treated in Gilead. A rebellious girl isn't seen as human. She's seen as something to correct. And this is where the episode becomes deeply unsettling once Daisy's flashback storyline reveals more information about Weston's past. Because Mayday gives Daisy detailed files on important commanders she may encounter inside Gilead, and among them is Commander Weston. Before Gilead, he was apparently a crypto trader, but the far more important detail is the domestic abuse history connected to him. That completely changes how viewers interpret every single Weston scene in the episode. Suddenly, his cold reactions feel threatening. His controlled politeness feels performative. Even the story about his wife dying in childbirth starts sounding suspicious. The show never outright confirms he harmed his wife, but it absolutely wants viewers to question him. And honestly, the timing is deliberate. The episode reveals his abuse history immediately after Agnes's subtle rebellion. Why? Because the story is showing us the possible future waiting for Agnes if she marries him. And it's terrifying. What makes this writing smart is that Gilead rewards men like Weston. Outside Gilead, abuse allegations damage reputations. Inside Gilead, powerful men are protected as long as they maintain order. That's why Agnes's mother still views him as the best match. Status matters more than safety, and this creates one of the episode's darkest hidden ideas. Agnes may already sense the danger intuitively, even if she doesn't consciously know about Weston's past. Sometimes people recognize danger emotionally before intellectually understanding it. That may explain why she sabotaged the meeting almost instinctively. Meanwhile, Daisy's storyline shows another side of rebellion entirely. Unlike Agnes, Daisy is loud, impulsive, emotional, and openly resistant. But episode 7 finally explains how she became involved with Mayday, and honestly, it changes how we understand her character. After June leaves her behind in Toronto, Daisy could have disappeared into hiding. That was the safer choice. Instead, she insists on helping. That decision reveals something important inherited from June herself. Daisy doesn't just hate Gilead, she needs to fight it. And the episode cleverly parallels Daisy and Agnes throughout the hour. One girl is entering Gilead voluntarily, the other is trapped inside it unwillingly. But both are beginning to question authority in dangerous ways. The Mayday training scenes are especially important because they show Daisy studying commanders like a spy preparing for war. She memorizes faces, personal histories, weaknesses, and this is where the Weston reveal becomes even more meaningful, because Daisy learns about his abuse history before Agnes ever does, which almost creates tragic, dramatic irony. The audience now knows Agnes could be heading toward a nightmare marriage, while Agnes herself remains trapped inside the system arranging it. But Daisy's rebelliousness also creates collateral damage, and this is where episode 7 becomes morally complicated, because Daisy hides her illegal radio inside another Pearl girl's bed. At first it seems smart, until the eyes discover it, and suddenly an innocent girl is dragged away as a suspect. This moment is crucial because the episode refuses to romanticize rebellion completely. Daisy saves herself, but someone else pays the price. That's realistic. Resistance movements are messy, people get sacrificed, sometimes innocent people suffer because of desperate choices, and you can actually see the guilt forming on Daisy's face afterward, because for the first time, rebellion stops feeling exciting. Now it feels dangerous, now it has consequences, and this may become one of the defining differences between Daisy and Agnes moving forward. Agnes's rebellion is private and emotional. Daisy's rebellion creates real-world damage. But both girls are being shaped into people Gilead cannot fully control. And that's why episode 7 feels so important for the rest of the season, because this is the hour where the masks begin slipping. Agnes is no longer just the obedient green girl. Daisy is no longer just June's hidden daughter. They are both evolving into threats, just different kinds. And there's another hidden detail many viewers may have missed. The episode repeatedly connects rebellion with memory. Agnes collects relics from the past. Daisy studies the truth about commanders. Mayday preserves information. Even Weston's hidden abuse history represents buried truth resurfacing. That's not accidental. Gilead survives by rewriting reality. So every act of remembering becomes an act of rebellion. And Agnes secretly preserving objects from the old world may actually be one of the most revolutionary things happening in the entire episode, because those tiny objects prove something emotionally powerful. Part of her refuses to let the old world die, even if she can't fully explain why. And honestly, that may be the biggest clue about Agnes's future. Right now, her rebellion is quiet, tiny, almost invisible. But revolutions usually begin that way, not with giant speeches, with hidden memories, private doubts, small forbidden acts, a cigarette stub, a forbidden object, one sentence meant to wound a commander. And episode 7 makes it clear that Agnes is slowly becoming someone Gilead will eventually fear. Because once someone begins questioning the system emotionally, it becomes almost impossible to fully control them again. Especially when they start realizing obedience and survival are not the same thing. And the scariest part for Gilead, Agnes hasn't even fully awakened yet, which means this may only be the beginning. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe for more deep analysis on the Testament's hidden clues, character theories, and ending explanations every week.